Are you trying to dominate your fantasy football league? Do you want so many championship rings it's impossible to sign autographs? Well, crack open a beer, pour yourself a glass of bourbon, and settle in, because you've come to the right place. Welcome to Hammercast.
And welcome into the Hammercast Network. I am David Stidham, Hammerjacks, your host, and with me on this Friday night, all the way from California, is Bo McBigtime. How you doing, Bo?
I'm doing great. I'm off work. About to go ahead and hit dinner with the wife. It's gonna be a good night.
Man. Where y'all going?
We got the casino out there. They got like 8, 9 restaurants to choose from, so we'll figure it out when we get there.
That's awesome, man. You're gonna do a little gambling?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to a casino for my health.
Well, some people. Well, if you watch Vegas Vacation, Eddie goes there just for the buffet, the $1.75 buffet.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the one thing that's not open right now is the buffet, thanks to the COVID restrictions. So everything else is open. They have the sit-down restaurants all the way around the place, and they're all really good. So,
well, what are you working on right now?
What am I working on? Drink-wise, food-wise?
Yeah, what you got going on?
This is a hard to find little number that I came across a couple weeks ago. It's Elijah Craig barrel proof. And yeah, you can find Elijah Craig just about everywhere. You can find the toasted barrel. You can find all the varieties of Elijah Craig just about everywhere at a pretty decent value. But Elijah Craig barrel proof is sought after because there's not as many bottles. When you don't filter it out, you don't add water to it when you bottle it, you don't get as many bottles. And so you got supply and demand means that if you find one of these bad boys for around $50, you buy it.
Well, actually, if you find it for around $80 or $90, you buy it. I can't find it anywhere. It's a unicorn where I'm at. I'm dying to have one. I've never had an Elijah Craig barrel proof.
It's the first one I've seen in my area, and I just happened to walk into the store that I usually go to, and I happened to run into the store director himself, who's a bourbon drinker, and he's like, hey, I just got this in. And he just put it in the cage like 5 minutes before. And of course, it's locked up. Only he can unlock it. And he went in the cage, unlocked it. And he goes, you interested in this? I was like, yeah. Yeah.
Man, that's probably the fastest you ever pulled your credit card out.
Yes, it was quick. I got another bottle alongside it too. They had the Booker's 2102, which I also got the 2103 at Costco the other day. So
gummit, bro. I am working on the new uncut, unfiltered smoke wagon, and I did a blind taste test. I don't know if you saw the video. I did a blind taste test with that versus barrel. The barrel batch 30, and believe it or not, a lot of people thought barrel would win, but uncut, unfiltered smoke wagon.
Smoke wagon it's unicorn. I've never seen one in person, so I'll have to keep my eyes peeled for smoke wagon.
Yeah, yep. There's 3 of them. All of them are amazing. But that uncut, unfiltered is at another level, and so I'm really happy with that. But anyway, so hey, happy Thanksgiving! Cheers! Congratulations on kicking my ass again last week.
I mean, what else is new? I mean,
I won the week before.
You beat me unofficially 2 weeks ago because we didn't get our lineups in on time and locked in.
I was in Nashville.
I'm pretty sure you beat me though because it might have been.
I did.
Yeah, it was closer than you thought, though, because my team did pretty well that week, too. But I know you won. I just don't think it was by much. But last week, I laid the hurting on everybody. You were definitely not alone in taking a whooping from me last week because I was on fire.
Man, I don't know. I got something up my sleeve this week. As a matter of fact, we'll just go ahead and make a wager out of it at the end of the show. Yeah. Because I think I'm unbeatable this week, and it's going to be all part of my hammer. By the way, you only gave me 3 stacks tonight.
I know,
and we're going to go through these stacks.
I got a hot date, man. I got a hot date.
But I'm going to tell you, I've got my own hammer stack.
Woo!
And so I'm coming in hard, coming in hot with the hammer stack, and then I'm also going to ask you to explain some shit, and we'll go through that in just a minute. Okay. But anyway, as a matter of fact, let's explain some shit right now. You ready?
Yeah.
Let's explain this shit. Number 1, Cowboys. Explain it.
Their offense is out of sync, and no matter how good your talent is, you lose a couple of stud wide receivers, and the offense all of a sudden goes from 2 great receivers to no great receivers, and then you have to rely on the running game that hasn't been able to get going. The defense hasn't been great. They've been kind of average and making turnovers. In the last couple of weeks, they haven't forced any turnovers. So a lot of these things that we were worried about with the Cowboys are coming to the forefront the last couple of weeks. Luckily, their schedule's starting to let up here, and so hopefully they can get back into the swing of things, because it hasn't been pretty the last 4 weeks. They've lost 3 games, and really the only one in between was the Falcons, and I don't even know if you can count that win because the Falcons are that bad.
That's true. But you know what, though? I saw Dak Prescott yesterday throw for 400 yards and 2 touchdowns, a 2-point conversion.
He looked pretty good.
Cedric Wilson, Michael Gallup, and Dalton Schultz, and also the 2 running backs. I think their defense. And what is that? What's that cornerback's name? Brown, who should be off. They shouldn't have let him go home. I mean,
that was his first bad game of the year, so I'll give him. I mean, it was painful.
I've seen a lot of bashing on the guy,
and I can't imagine what his social media looks like this week, because the guy had, I think, 1 penalty leading up to that game the whole season. 1 penalty, and you know how hard it is for a full-time defensive back that isn't named Trayvon Diggs. He's getting all the target share, and he hasn't been picking up any penalties. And 2 of those were definitely interference. The other 2, including the one in overtime, absolutely horrendous calls. And really, it wasn't like there were horrendous calls in one way or favor or the other. Both teams were getting too many penalties, and both teams were picking up stupid ticky-tack stuff that they shouldn't have even called. So the game was almost done. For how good and close and amazing that back and forth game was, the game was almost as unwatchable as you would think a 36-33 overtime game could be, because these refs thought it was all about them. And there was 28 accepted penalties. There were 3 or 4 more that were declined. Just think about that.
It was brutal. It really made it hard to watch, even though it was such a great game. It was just so many disruptions, and I just like, wow. And then there was some that should have been called that weren't.
It seemed to me like they were just throwing a flag every time there's a 3rd down. And if it was an incomplete pass, then, we got bailed out with a pass interference or a roughing the passer. And you're like, okay, I mean, you just don't want to see any real football. We're just going to see, what flag are they going to call this time? But yeah, I think the two of the 4 that were on Brown were completely made up. Like they were like, he didn't complete, the receiver couldn't catch it, so it's automatically interference. The one in overtime where he was spun around, didn't turn around, that's not a penalty unless he runs into the guy, and he didn't run into the guy until after the ball had already ricocheted off his back. That's not a penalty. If he didn't get there too early, didn't make contact before the ball got there, it's not a penalty, even if he doesn't get his head turned around. You're taught as a professional in college, that's a penalty no matter what, because you can't face guard in NCAA. In the pros, you can face guard all you want as long as you don't hit the guy before the ball gets there. And he didn't turn around, but the ball went off his helmet, and all you're doing is looking to get your hand in between the receiver's hands so he can't catch the ball. That's not a penalty. And for it to be a 40-yard penalty in overtime, putting them in field goal range to win the game, the games cannot be decided like that. It's terrible for the NFL as a product.
Yeah. I think they're gonna have to do something, because there's just too many people talking about it. And it's all people are talking about, and that's the worst thing that the NFL needs is everybody talking about the officiating and not the game itself, especially on what it was argued. No, it was actually the largest viewed audience since
1990.
Yeah, I mean 30 years, and so I mean you think about that, and then that many people watch this game.
2 of the biggest fan bases facing each other on a national holiday in that 4 o'clock window. So it's
to all see this ridiculousness. It's bad. But
I'm not even complaining as a Cowboys fan. The Raiders got a ton of penalties too, and I was just like, man, are they just going to let them play or what? No, they're not going to let them play.
Equal opportunity for sure. But to me, I think the Cowboys defense is being exposed a little bit. And I think their offense is going to be fine. But here's what blows my mind. We're going to explain the shit number 2, the Titans. They lose to the Jets. They lose to the Jets.
No fucking clue.
And then they beat 6 playoff teams in a row.
6 very good playoff teams.
Very good teams. All
5 of those we thought could have been the best
Right.
Super Bowl contenders this year.
And they won 2 of them without Derrick Henry. All right. And then they get a home game against the Houston Texans, who hadn't even scored a touchdown on the road this year. Was it just overconfidence, lack of game planning, overlooking? What the hell? How the hell do they lose to the Jets and then the Texans? And they beat all those teams in between.
Very easily, the Titans can be explained in 2 phases. Their defense was never that good, and their offense has had all the injuries in the world. Their offensive line's banged up all year. They haven't had Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, and Julio Jones on the field at the same time at any point this season. And in the preseason, we were all just like, everybody's like, holy crap, how is anybody going to stop the Titans? Well, apparently you just got to wait till everybody gets hurt, because Tannehill by himself is not a great quarterback. He's very good at finding his weapons and dispersing the ball. He's very good at running the play action off of the Derrick Henry zone runs. But if you take away Derrick Henry and you have a whole swing crew shift of running backs to replace him, and they keep changing that up. Peterson comes and goes. You had Dante Foreman. He went. He's gone. Yeah, Dante Foreman, who might be the next on the chopping block if he doesn't show up this week, because I mean, Dontrell Hilliard was in there last time with 15 touches and put up a respectable fantasy week as a PPR back. And I just don't know who you key in on. If you're Ryan Tannehill, who the hell do you throw the ball to? Anthony Ferkser, Nick Westbrook-Akina? I mean, no way. Then this is
he should have thrown to Marcus Johnson, who I went and picked up and played, who had like 8 targets the week before.
Yeah, nothing. That was, I mean, it's just going to come down to weekly matchups, and the Texans, that was supposed to be a smash spot for Tannehill, no matter who he was throwing the ball to, and it didn't happen because rain was pouring. They had to try to establish a run against a weak Texans front, and they couldn't get going. They couldn't get traction, and any given Sunday, you show up flat. No matter how good you are, you show up flat, you get beat.
Yeah, I totally agree. The last thing is let's go ahead and touch on the coaches in the hot seat.
There's a lot of them, and there's even more that should be. Matt Nagy should have been gone 2 years ago. Jason Garrett being gone in New York is just a precursor for the rest of those dominoes to fall. So just wait, Gettleman will be next in a couple of weeks, and probably Joe Judge at the end of the year. There's a whole lot of coaches that I think should be in the hot seat, like Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll's doing a terrible job in Seattle.
Doesn't he have amnesty or something though?
I don't care what he has. John Gruden had amnesty too until those emails came out. Yeah,
that's true.
I'm just saying Pete Carroll is the oldest coach in the league. He hasn't done anything in the recent memory with a lot of talent on his squad. He's been running hand in hand with that GM. He has almost as much power as any head coach in the league, which is where that amnesty comes in. I was like, oh, he has his hands in everything. Well, their personnel decisions the last 3 years have been horrible. Like some of the worst draft classes we've seen in the league. And then their free agency signings, their salary cap situation are just a mess. And it's all it all goes back to Pete Carroll. Whether they win, Pete Carroll gets all the credit. When they lose, like now, and they're 3-7, he should take all the blame, and he should be on the hot seat. Who else?
Well, everybody thought Nagy was going to get it, weren't they?
Everybody wants that. Everybody in the world wants that except for the McClaskey family. And I guess that's all that matters is if the McClaskey family doesn't want to fire him, then he's not going to get fired. If everybody in the world except for the McClaskey family wants him fired, he's still safe. And it doesn't matter if he's the worst coach in the history of the franchise, which he is. If you're not firing him for being a complete ineptitude at his position the whole time, the entire time, he's been pulling this franchise down. And Ryan Pace has had a up and down tenure as a GM. He's had some good moves and he's made some bad moves. His worst move was hiring Matt Nagy, and that should take him down with the boat.
Even though he won what, Coach of the Year on his first year?
Wasn't him.
I know it wasn't him.
If he missed 17 games with COVID this year and the team went 12-5 without him, would he win Coach of the Year? Probably.
Right. I don't know, man. I don't know. I've got anyway, all right, let's get to these.
Nobody
stacks.
thinks Nagy's a good coach at this point. And
No,
nobody
as a matter of fact, everybody thinks
that
everybody hates him, and he's already hearing rumors. And as a matter of fact, I thought it was a Twitter rumor. Now it went
everywhere.
It went viral, and now even the broadcasters were talking about it, and so yeah. So I don't know, but anyway, I what about Dan Campbell?
He should be safe. That team's playing their heart out every week. We're talking about a team that hasn't won a game, and they've only been blown out 3 times. You would think a team with 9 losses and a tie.
You're right. They have had a lot of close games.
They've been in a ton of close games. Almost every game they've had is down to the wire because they never give up. Are they a good team? No, but nobody expected them to be good. I thought their peak win total this year would be 4 wins. And so it's not surprising that they're winless at this point. But they've been so close so many times that you can't fault the coach for the players not performing. It comes down to that. If the coach is having his team ready to play where they're in every game and they just either don't have the talent or they're not executing like Jared Goff.
It's a combination.
Jared Goff looks horrible out there.
I saw a stat that he hadn't won a game since without McVay.
He's never won a game without McVay in his career.
Right. So anyway, all right. Well, let's rock and roll on these these stacks because I know you got a casino to go to. Let's start with your first spendy stack, which we also call it the second mortgage stack. But let's just jump right in here.
Yeah, hell hath no fury like a Tampa Bay Buccaneers stack, especially this season. The way this passing game is gelled. Tom Brady is coming off a rough performance against the Washington football team, but then he backed it up with a really nice one. So we're looking at a Tom Brady who's at the very top of the DFS price scale for the main slate, 7,600. That's still not that expensive for a guy who's top 30 points 4 times. He's top 40 points twice. This isn't exactly a matchup that scares me. And for anything at all, I'm not expecting two interceptions to get tipped up in the air and go into the hands of the defense this week either.
That's why I actually thought I had a chance to beat you last week.
Yeah. And Tom Brady was he didn't look sharp, but he didn't look terrible. The first interception obviously wasn't his fault. And they just never really got it together. And then Washington, they had all the time of possession. They did a great job staying on the field and keeping Brady off of it. It wasn't really Brady being bad. It was just Washington keeping Brady off the field so he couldn't win the game. And so I'm not going to fade Brady even at the very top of the price scale, but especially when he's got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin still out there catching tons of passes, lots of touchdowns.
And Gronk got through the game without getting injured.
That's a plus. I'm a little bit off these tight ends because there's 3 of them that can catch balls, and I don't really want to hone in on one of them. Yeah, so you've got Gronk, you have Brate, and you have OJ Howard, and they're all getting 2 to 3 targets apiece. I don't want any part of that. And yeah, tip your cap if one of them catches 2 touchdowns like Gronk did early on in the season. But it's so much more heavily towards Evans and Godwin, especially when Antonio Brown's out. And Brown's probably going to be back in a week or 2 from now. For now, I'm going to attack these 2 top guys.
I agree with that totally. But correct me if I'm wrong. Is Scotty Miller suiting up this week?
Who cares?
He's that little slot guy. Brady likes that guy.
He's not a slot guy. He's a speed guy. He doesn't line up in the slot. He's a Z receiver. He's off the line of scrimmage. He's out wide, and all he does is run wind sprints. And every once in a while, they'll run cover 2 where the safety's too slow to get over. And Scotty Miller is a 4-3 guy. You get a 4-3 guy running a 9 route, and the safety's a little bit hesitant to take one side of the field because Brady's looking on the other side, and you got a chance for Brady to drop one in the bucket down the side. But it's like once every 7 games for Scotty Miller, he catches 1 39-yard touchdown, and that's all you get from him. So maybe in a GPP dart throw, you could do that.
Well, he was like it's just like Brashard Perriman. He was the same type player. I will say that I do like the stack. I do got a lot of shares of Evans and Godwin, and so I'm hoping that this stack comes through for you. I think it will. I don't think they're going to hold
Only
back.
failed me once this whole year. I've played this stack 4 or 5 times this season, and the only time I lost was last week, and I really didn't lose. I just didn't hit big money because Brady only had 15, but Evans still scored a touchdown. Godwin still scored a touchdown. So I wasn't going broke on this stack. I've won a lot more money on the stack than I've lost this year.
Well, that's what matters. That's why you're going to the casino, and you're drinking Elijah Craig Barrel Proof.
Yes,
Once
sir.
again, I can't believe you found some, and hopefully I'll find some Elijah Craig Barrel Proof before too long. As a matter of fact, I might do a little hunting tomorrow, and so
it is delicious. It is delicious.
So I might do a little hunting tomorrow afternoon and see if I can find some of that or something else. Okay, so let's go to Spinny Stack Part 2. I like this one.
Hoggins.
Oh,
think it's not T. Higgins, it's T. Hoggins. It rhymes with Kenny Loggins.
hey, it's the Hoggins show.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I don't know if this is a spendy stack, except Shamar Chase is spendy, but Joe Burrow's down there in the low 6s. That's a good price for him, especially with his upside. T. Higgins down in the low 5s. I'll take that all day and then some. This stack has a ton of upside. Pittsburgh has gotten away with a weaker schedule. Passing, their secondary has been able to take a couple weeks off. So I'm not really concerned that the Pittsburgh secondary is going to slow this team down. I also think that Joe Mixon's going to get a little bit of a lighter load this week after carrying it over 30 times last week.
Right. Well, the reason I put it in there in Spendy Part 2 is because when you add Najee Harris in there with Chase, and Burrow and Higgins aren't exactly value plays.
Najee is expensive, but he's worth.
And so Najee up there with Chase, and so that's a spendy stack for me. I do love the stack. I think there's a whole lot of potential right there.
And you could go a little bit different. You can do a Deontay Johnson instead of Najee. You can do a Pat Freiermuth instead of Najee. I'm not against moving the pieces around for the Steelers on the run back, because the Steelers are going to score points on the Bengals. I do think this will be the highest scoring game on the slate.
Does it not bother you that Eric Ebron's getting the ball now, and now that he's back in Freiermuth?
Well, Ebron's hurt now. Ebron's out.
He is again?
Yeah, he popped in, he scored a touchdown, and then he got hurt on the touchdown. So he got hurt on that touchdown where I was pissed off. I literally tweeted out when Ebron scored the touchdown, I was like, where the fuck is Freiermuth? and as soon as I saw the touchdown, I see Ebron limping to the sidelines, and I'm like, well, I guess we'll see him now. And sure enough, the very next drive, Freiermuth caught the touchdown, and I was like, found him.
There he goes. Well, that's a great stack. I'm just trying to decide once we get through with these, which one you're going to actually lay on me. And I think I have an idea, but time will tell. Let's go ahead and get to the Walking Dead stack. And yes, you'll see how I posted it.
Zach freaking Wilson.
Yes, Zach freaking
Why does
Wilson.
Everybody hate this kid?
I like the kid. I drafted him, and but the problem is he didn't look good. He looked great in preseason. The hype was a little bit bigger, but you got to remember he doesn't have a whole lot around him, and he's young. And so I still think he's got potential, but it's his first game back from injury.
Let's just say that if you think that there was anything more than bad timing, where we got Elijah Moore's breakout with Mike White and Joe Flacco, that was all timing. These rookie wide receivers always hit their stride around mid-season towards the end of the year. Elijah Moore's a special player. I've been talking him up all off season. I've been saying Elijah Moore is a stud. Just wait till he gets a piece of this offense that he can call his own. Because early on in the year, they were just like, hey, we get you up to speed. It's a complicated offense. It's a Shanahan disciple offense with Mike LaFleur. It's not easy to learn as a wide receiver. There's so many different routes that the guy has to run from different spots in the formation. And now he's got it. And he's been the wide receiver one overall, not just out of rookies. He is the number one wide receiver in the NFL for fantasy the last 4 weeks. I think he's got it figured out. And that was with Mike White and Joe freaking Flacco as his quarterback. And Zach Wilson has got more talent, arm talent in his pinky finger than those two guys. So
I agree
if
with
you
that.
think it's just more than timing, if you think it's anything more than timing, if you think Zach Wilson can't do the same thing and more that these two basically nobodies at quarterback could do with Elijah Moore, you're insane, because Zach Wilson has a better deep ball. He has better arm strength, better timing. He just needs to learn how to get out of pressure. He needs to learn how to do his thing show
he
that
needs to learn how to
swagger
check down a little bit quicker. That's for damn sure.
That's why I'm playing a lot of Ty Johnson this week too. Ty Johnson is a stud. Like every time we see this guy get a chance, he puts up massive fantasy numbers. Remember last year against the Raiders? It's like, oh, who the hell's Ty Johnson? I was like, just watch. 2 touchdown game, 120 yards against the Raiders. And they're like, yeah, that's Ty Johnson. And then they benched him the next week because of no reason at all other than they're the Jets. They just can't have nice things. Well, Michael Carter
really can't.
Michael Carter is the nice thing, and he's hurt this week and probably the next couple weeks. Ty Johnson gets that run, and I don't trust Tevin Coleman as far as I can throw him because he's been in the league for as long as I've been alive, and he's never done anything. So Ty Johnson is the play
one of the
this
most
week.
Overrated backs in the last 5 years for sure.
Right. So give me Zach Wilson, Elijah Moore, Ty Johnson, super cheap stack. Like we're talking The Walking Dead's for Ty Johnson, who most people have never heard of. If you're not
ain't nobody playing this stack. Ain't nobody playing that. That's why we do this show. That's a spicy stack. Nobody's going to be playing Zach Wilson and Ty Johnson, and so this is what's going to be exciting. And I sure hope this stack pays off because I mean it's got to be. I mean you could probably add CMC. You could probably add a bunch of studs. This is a true start.
I'm thinking CMC, Devontae Adams, Kyle Pitts. I'm throwing in all the big upside guys around these guys because I'm trying to win a milli here. Right. This is a milli maker stack because
exactly.
Nobody,
that many people. Playing.
Zach Wilson might be 5% owned. Elijah Moore would have been 15% or 20% owned after he put up 32 last week, except for the change in quarterback. Everybody's all standoffish because Zach Wilson's back. It's like, okay, I'm going to bank on talent. I know Zach Wilson has talent. He just hasn't put it all together yet, and then he got hurt. Elijah Moore is putting on a freaking show out there. And Ty Johnson, I've seen him excel. You give him enough volume, he's going to bust off some big runs. He's got good hands out of the backfield. He's extremely fast, and he's a physical runner on top of that. So you get 3 of these guys that are young, talented guys against a terrible defense. I mean, we're not even talking about the matchup. The matchup is primo.
Were you ready to see the hammer stack?
I'm excited to see the hammer stack.
You probably won't like it, but I think if you can get over the quarterback, I think you'll like it. Here is the hammer stack. Cam freaking Newton. The price is too good not to go for it. He's going to run. He ran 40 yards last week. Cam, you add CMC and DJ Moore, who was finally getting the target share he deserved, and you're bringing it back with Waddle and Gesicki, the top 2 target leaders for Tua Tagovailoa. So I don't know. I'm kind of going 5 in one game. What?
I love the stack. I don't like the size of the game stack because I don't see this game shooting out. But more power to you. I like all the pieces. I might not do a run back in this one because I think Miami's going to struggle to score points on Carolina. But that Carolina side, that Carolina side is straight sex. I have a lot of that.
Do you? I figured you might, but
I didn't have to because Cam Newton should have gotten a much bigger price hike this week, and because he didn't, he's going to be ultra chalky again. And so you almost have to double stack him with McCaffrey and Moore because otherwise you're just going to get busted in with everybody else who has Cam Newton at 5,600.
Right. And so anyway, I just wanted to throw a hammer stack in there to get us that 4th stack. And you know what? I'm probably playing my cards. You're probably looking at it right now. I might have to fill it in with a guy like Elijah Moore and a few other players to be named later. But this is the week.
I don't know if you can leverage me. I'm a pretty tough nut to crack when it comes to leveraging my lineup picks. Because how many times have you guessed who I was going to have?
It's very few. I've gotten you a few times, but not for the most part. It's always somebody different. And
Scott Simpson he's beside himself.
He's losing his mind.
He thought he had me pegged on Thanksgiving because last year he had Antonio Gibson on Thanksgiving, and the rest is history. and then after Thanksgiving last week, I didn't lose until the Super Bowl slate. Like I literally ran the table after Thanksgiving because I was so pissed off. And then I'm on a 4-game winning streak now because yesterday I beat him by 50 on Thanksgiving. And
hey, I cashed out pretty good yesterday. I hit everything I played.
I tripled my money. I took down 2 smaller tournaments, so I was pretty happy with my Thanksgiving lineups. I only had 3 lineups, and I took everybody's lunch money, so I'll take it.
Good for you, bro. Well, this week I think I'm gonna lay the hammer down with the hammer stack, and then we'll be able to talk about it next week. I know you got a date to go. You got a hot date. Take another few pours of your Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. I'm so jealous. And enjoy the rest of your night. And you know what? We'll talk it up next week, Bo. You got any final thoughts? Hey, where's everybody going to find your stuff right now?
All my stuff, all my ramblings and rantings are going on Twitter at Bo_McBigTime. And of course, you can find all my products at bigtimeflavor.co. It's a favorite of the fantasy football community. It is the official punch in the mouth of fantasy football. The official punch in the mouth of fantasy football. Guys, get on it.
Hey, you want to know something? And this is no shit. I mean, we've talked about your rubs and all that, and I'm going to do this real quick. The Amigo rub is sitting on our round thing and on our island, and it's like a spice now. And and I use the Nashville Hot, or the Hot, you changed the name of it, but I still call it Nashville Hot. I use that on freaking everything, and I keep the taco season every time I do any. I mean, I use your rubs like condiments, like salt and pepper.
That's how I envisioned it. So
I love it.
Appreciate that.
And so anyway, well, hey, Bo, great week. Looking forward to next week, and have a great night tonight with the lovely, and we'll talk to you next week.
Likewise.
All right, bro.
Did you get all that? If not, make sure you head over to hammercast.com, subscribe, and join the Hammer Nation. Until next